Yes, yes, y'all. That's what we say back in the day. Yes, yes, y'all. To the beat, y'all. What's up, peeps? I am back in the saddle again. I am back in the saddle again. What's happening, y'all? Making these adjustments because it's all good in the neighborhood. All right. So who is here? Who is here? Who is here? I would like to know. I would like to know. I would like to know. Who is here? Who is here? Today we are talking about, is buying and using older tech a bad thing? It's been a topic that I keep getting from people. I know the reason why. I'm clear on the reason why. We're gonna go through that today because I just want to iron out a few things in terms of Mr. Pirate Brain. What's up, man? Long time no see. Yeah, man. It's been a heck of a last month, man, but it's all good. You know, if it don't kill you, it make you stronger, you know, as they say. So one comes out stronger, you know what I mean? That's how that goes. Yeah, man, but it's all good. And I'm glad that you're here, man. And we'll wait for a few more to get back with it. It's a funny thing. Brother is back on the let me not put this mic in my face. I'm back on the webcam. And you know, this is like almost timely in that, you know, sometimes we get caught up on tech and having the latest and greatest. And it's nothing wrong with wanting to up your game, but at the same time, if it's coming at the expense of functionality, nah, we can't do that. You know, so if you are more comfortable using old tech, it's great. Yeah, you know what's funny that I'm seeing that's true because there's a lot of people. I'm coming across a lot of composers internationally that's their thing. You know what I mean? Whether they're composing for games or television or whatever have you, they'll pull out a Moog or some other type of synth in a minute to get the job done. They don't care whether it's you know, software based or whatever. If it's giving them the sound that they need, that's the most important thing. So, who's in the hizzy? Talk to a brother. Armando, oh, my brother, I am glad you're here, man. It's like connecting with my old crew, if you will, man. Yeah, it's good to be here. Like I was telling you all before, you know, sometimes you can get caught up, you know, in terms of the mundane day in, day out activities of life. But it's good to, you know, connect on another level. You know, it's one thing to do videos and this, that, and the third, but it's a whole other thing when you can connect with people and have the back and forth. And yes, that's what I enjoy the most. John Lance. Yes, sir. I'm glad you're here, John. And Giovanni. Ha. Oh, man. Yeah, man. I'm glad. Yeah, man. I'm glad you gave me that heads up because, you know, I had it scheduled improperly. So I really appreciate you looking out on that level. And I'm glad you're here, brother. You know, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, we're going to talk about a few things. And I'm just catching up with everybody right now. I'm looking at Mr. Pirate Brain, and he's talking about he's getting a WA-273 EQ next month. That's a good acquisition, man. Really good, you know, and very versatile, you know. And it's time for us to put some music back out, you know. And that's one of the things that I'm going to talk about today, where I've been on this whole topic about tech and everything else. I'm still doing the studio tour. I have not forgotten about that. It's actually, I filmed it. It's all ready to go, except for I'm making a few changes in the workflow here and there. So with that in mind, that's what's happening. Giovanni, yeah, most definitely, brother. Listen, I, you know, even if it was just me and you, bro, we would hang out. You know, it's like that. So I appreciate you being here, brother. Yeah, and John, you too, man. You too. I'm glad you're here, man. So we're gonna talk about a few things. Let's get back to square one. Uh, and it's the conversation that I have with a lot of the youngsters on occasion when we're talking about just tech and I see the lights in their eyes when they go to like the NAM show or when they go to the AES. And I was standing next to a kid and he was looking at the API 1608 and he was like, you know stunned and in awe of it. And I was like, it's inspiring, right? He was like, yeah. But what I'm finding is that most don't really pay attention to the fact that the equipment is just a tool to get a job done. In the end, we're all still musicians, if you will. And the equipment is supposed to facilitate your ability to translate your ideas and thoughts into reality. You know, all too often we get caught up on, oh, do I need the latest this or the latest and greatest that, or will people laugh at me if I'm using a hardware based sequencer? Which is why if you see on the thumbnail of the live stream, I had a Alesis MMT8, and maybe for some people, and I knew of a very prominent producer who used the Roland I think it was a Roland SQ8 sequencer for years. I mean, he made hit records on this thing. And it was like, why don't you transition into like opcode? At the time, opcode vision was the thing, or Cubase. And he was like, nah, this is my bread and butter. This is how I'm making records. And a lot of guys were making records on the MPC, back in the day. And it was like their workflow. So what is happening today is a lot of the youngsters, they don't, realize that these are tools to get a job done. And it's about workflow. And if nothing else, this last upgrade has taught me is that you don't need anything standing in the way of that. Nothing at all should stand in the way of workflow. And if this whole live stream situation was any education for you all as well as myself, I went out and bought all the latest and greatest tech. What am I on right now? A webcam and the old setup I had before. Why? Because I need to get a job done. And in doing so, I don't need any of the equipment causing me problems and standing in the way of me progressing in that manner. So, let's just really quickly connect, because I got Ninja 6485 in the house too. And he says, I use a Yamaha QX3. Really? Really? There was another one that I had by Yamaha, one of the first ones. It was really cool because I sequenced a whole song on this thing, right? And one day it crashed. That was back in the day of like Mr. Pirate Brain probably knows this one too. When you had to offload everything to tape for storage. I'm really dating myself when I say that. This was before using floppies. Even the big 5-inch floppies. You used to have to use tape. And it was a serial connector connected to this like tape drive that would hold all the data. It would transfer the data back. It was real slow transfer times, etc. But yeah, man, it crashed. It crashed, B, right in the middle of the data transfer, corrupted all the data, which means the entire song was lost. So, yeah, man, that Yamaha sequencer was a love-hate relationship, man. But it's really cool though. Armando says he's using a MPC Renaissance. Cool. Oh, Mr. Pirate Brain says his first DAW was Opcode Studio Vision. Yeah, that was the Bomb Diggity back in the day. It was like everybody was on the Vision bandwagon, and Opcode had it locked out, man, for a while. They were like the go-to. John Land says he has the ASQ10. Is that the Ensoniq sequencer? I think, and the MPC 60. Wow. Yeah, so I mean, if you have these tools and they're facilitating your ability to work, to express yourself, to get the ideas out in the quickest fashion, absolutely nothing wrong with it. So let's go through a few whiteboard topics. What are the top reasons for buying older tech? The number one would be affordability, limited budget, the aesthetics, which means you like the way it looks, and sound quality. Because if you remember, some of these rolling sequences are still killing, And as I'm looking at some of my British brothers and some of my Italian and Swedish brothers who are composers, they're out there using the old Roland and the old Yamaha stuff, mixing and combining different sounds to create something new. And that's how you get your signature, when it gets right down to it, So here we got Kira Barsmith says, I'm using an Ensoniq EPS 16 Plus. It's awesome. Yes. I used to use it Vision on Apple. Aha. Oh wow. It's Kira if you're a young lady. You use Vision on an Apple LC2. I still have my 2VX with an audio media and a new bus slots. So, to your point, But again, let's talk about the affordability factor. I want to put this out there right now. Some of this stuff, even though it's old tech, is not as affordable as one would imagine. Like if you take a Yamaha TX81Z or any of the TX series sound modules, some of that stuff is very expensive in the used market. But by the same token, if it's going to give you the sound that you're looking for, or give you a thumbprint that is unique unto you, then sometimes maybe it's best to spring for that extra, maybe a couple of $100 just to get that, because that might be the difference between you making more money on the back end than not, because it's unique unto you. A lot of people aren't using it because it's not the latest and the greatest technology. So to that point, in some respects, maybe some of this stuff is within your budget. You don't have a lot of money to spend, and you have a big job coming up, and you need, or the requirement. Let's use film composition for as an example. Sometimes, and I've seen this happen on the very few films that I've worked on, the director will have a specific request that you need to find a way to facilitate, or else they won't be happy, or you might lose the job, or maybe somebody else at Post House, whatever, has the ability to do that, and you become an afterthought, for whatever reason. You're going to need to be able to, let's jump back, grab a hold of this piece of equipment just to give you the sound that you're looking for, just to give that person who is requiring or signing that check, the sound that they want. Because in the end, if they're signing the check, you got to go out and find a way to make that thing happen. If you want to be hired and asked back in the future, And not only that, it's giving you this signature, sound. Like when you think about some of the top players in music, let's talk about Jaco Pastorius, one of the greatest bass players who have ever touched the instrument, and Stanley Clarke. We're not talking about the technical aptitude of each musician. Stanley Clarke's signature sound came from that alembic bass. Jaco, on the other hand, came from that fretless jazz bass. You know what I mean? So technique is one thing, but their sound came from the instrument that they used. There's no way you're going to get the same sound quality of a 6-foot grand piano like you can from a concert grand. They're two different instruments, so regardless of the technical aptitude of the player, the sound quality of the instrument might not fit the bill or fit the requirement of the person who's signing the check. So there's that reason. It gives you the ability to mark off your territory in terms of your ability to create a particular sound. And when you think about I'm using film composition for a reason, because that's what I've been researching in great depth when I was thinking about this topic. When you think about film composers, think about Hans Zimmer and, opposite ends of the spectrum. Hans Zimmer on one end and John Williams on the opposite. Two different types of musicians, both with individual signature sounds, So, for all of the gear snobs and, people that want to, start be pearl clutching musicians, like, oh, you're using whatever. If it's giving you the sound that you're looking for, or giving the person who's signing the check the sound that they want, then it's not bad for that reason. And if you happen to find a piece of equipment that is affordable, that's giving you and it's old and it's giving you the sound, or it's giving you something unique, I say buy it. Because guess what I've been reverting back to and playing a lot lately? For the longest of the last, I would say 5 to 6 years, I think I've dedicated a lot of my time to using software-based sequencers. But there's something about the depth of all of my hardware, all my Roland equipment, that when I plug it in and I play it, it's giving me a certain type of vibe. So, to that point. So let's just recap real fast. Affordability. If you find it on eBay or on Reverb and it's exactly what you're looking for, you grab it. Maybe your budget is limited and you want a unique sound. You grab it. Not so much the aesthetics, although some people will, gravitate towards a piece of equipment because it looks a particular way. You grab it for the eye candy factor. And then finally, the sound quality. If it's giving you the sound that you want within the budget, and with all of the circumstances that you may be faced with as a composer, and I'm coming at you from that perspective because that's where my head has been as of late, then you buy it for that reason, But let's jump forward to, the likely conversations that one will have when considering older technology. Oh, the sound quality is poor. Now, I think it was Kira that said that she has a Ensoniq. Now, if there was one thing about those samples in the Ensoniq, I think they were 8-bit and they were rather dirty and grungy. But again, if it's giving you the sound that you're looking for, even though it may be an 8-bit sound, or I'm gonna step out from underneath the covered wagon again. How many of you all remember the Mellotron and how the Mellotron functioned with the tape heads that used to hit the tape when you hit a particular key? Now, those little tape heads. Could you imagine the hiss coming out the output, from tape being looped around on a head? If you use tape at all, that tape can be hissy and noisy. So the Mellotron was just by design inherently noisy, destined to be, dirty and grungy sounding because of the design. But what you likely hear from your peers, the sound quality is poor. Number 2, it doesn't have the features of the newest fill in the blank. Now, in some respects, feature-rich types of software-based instruments, have come a long way. If you have to do any orchestration and you need to use string samples, okay, let's just say if you had to arrange for like a string quartet. There's certain technical things that a string player will do while they're bowing, and the tremolo, or the I guess I call it tremolo, but they have a technique for it when they are tremoloing like the string. They've come a long way in sampling that accurately, or the strumming of a harp and the glissando effect that you get from that in terms of the quality of the sample for certain instruments. They've come a long way in terms of sampling that. Now, like I know, that you can't, harpists, if you find one, God bless you. In New York, you're likely to find one. In other areas of the, continental U.S., you might have to go to your local symphony if they have that, in your state, and you would have to hire harpists. Could you imagine having to hire this person? Okay, that's one fee. You got to do the backline for them, or you're going to have to pay them cartage. That's another fee. Just so you can sample and have the most sample accurate effect of a harpist. So you got to think on that level that it's going to cost you some money. So, some of these samples are worth it, but the criticism that you're likely to receive from your peers when you're considering that is, it doesn't have the latest and greatest fill in the blank. So why would you use a sample from a Roland sound library, today when it doesn't have the sound of? I mean, to that point, and maybe there may be some, again, something positive to be said about that. But at the same time, if it's giving you exactly what you need for the job you are about to do, then that's the reason to get it. Never mind what other people say, because a lot of it is just noise. And you know what? At the end of the day, when you think about it, a lot of this is coming from the companies that just want you to buy, the software, or to buy the instrument, or whatever it is that they're selling, because they're trying to pad their bottom line, at your expense. Maybe if you went out and you hired the harpist and you sampled it and you got a really great, sample of, and you took out the time to do that, maybe now you have something that's unique unto you. You had to pay a little bit on the front end for it, but guess what? No one else has that sound but you in that area, And even if you are in New York and you did that, again, you're sampling this person, or whatever the case, or the harp in this case, and no one else has that sample but you. East West don't got it, or any of these other companies out there, Spitfire, I think it is, that has good sample libraries. No one else has that but you. You took the time to create that library for that. Now, it's a lot of work, granted, but at the same time, again, at the end of the day, no one has that sound but you. So it may not, again, be on par with East West or Spitfire or one of the other big sound library companies, but at the same time, it's yours. No one else has it but you. And with that in mind, you could sell it too, because maybe it becomes your signature and what you're hired for. And if that becomes an award-winning documentary or film or whatever it is that you're working on, guess what? You're not only going to get the money for the music you compose for the film. Now people are looking for the sound library that you use as well. So there's some benefits to doing things outside of the box, if you will. And one of the primary benefits is that it gives you a measure of autonomy in terms of who created this. I can't go to Sweetwater or Full Compass or one of these other companies and buy it. Sam Ash for that matter. You created it. This is something that you can now sell. So let's jump really quick into the comments. And I just want to give a shout out to Kira Barsmith. I am glad we have the female folk in the house, you know, and let's see. I like to use what everyone else isn't using. Okay, to Kira's point, you have to. You know, you think about let's talk about the top performers or one of the top performers, two of the top performers. Let's look at Prince and let's look at Michael Jackson. Both God rest their souls. But at the same time, most of Michael's records were cut by Bruce Wittin, who cut most of his records on I think a Harrison console. You know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think most of the if it wasn't a Harrison, it was a maybe an API. You know, you know, they didn't use all of these, maybe a Neve or an SSL, which was the during Michael's really heyday of his hits like Off the Wall and Bad and Thriller. You know, those were cut on probably consoles that were not a Neve based or not a SSL based console. And at the time, SSL was the up and coming new kid on the block, and had every reason. Every studio had every reason to install it because it was like, wow, this new digital console that's going to speed up the workflow for each and every artist that we're booking in our rooms now. So, to that point, it's whatever is going to work, for the job, So, yeah, if it's working, I mean, that's my thing. If it's working, it's working. And I'm going to get into my own little personal point about that. Alevon Major. Aha. Yeah, okay. He says it was a Harrison. Yeah. So, I mean, everybody wants, Neve API, but, Janet Jackson's Rhythm Nation was cut on a Harrison. All of the Jam and Lewis hits of the 80s and 90s, Harrison. So if it's working, man, hey, God bless you. Okay, Ninja6485. I'm going to start with the comments from the ground up. He said, there's no end to the number of people who will criticize you if you have higher end gear. I've taken heat for using cheap stuff, but people come out of the woodwork and hate the 303 808. Hey, listen. You know what I'm finding, though, that to your point, a lot of people who have opinions are not turning a dime in they're doing it more or less as a glorified hobby. You know what I mean? Because if you've worked in a professional capacity, sometimes there's a particular artist that I know of that had a very specific mic that he would only record on. And he recorded a ton of hits this way. Okay. So if you have that request as a artist and you're being paid a production fee by the record or back in the day by the label or by the artist management, you charging somebody $10,000 per track, right? You think they're gonna be, I would like to use microphone X, and you turn around, you got my 10 grand, and you're gonna tell them like, I can't get microphone X. What? I'm paying you for this production. It's your responsibility. It's your job to get it. Any kind of way you get it. Period. They done cut you 1/3 of that check to start that production. You better find a way to get that microphone. Or guess what? You're not getting hired again. You're not getting hired again. So, with that in mind, let's jump. That was a good one, Ninja6485. Mr. Pirate Brain has a good one. Whenever I use my Proteus 2000 on a track, it warms up the track a lot. Yeah, and that was another good. Like most of the stuff by I forgot the company but the Proteus. I think they had the MoFat EMU. I think it was MU. The MoFat and Planet Fat. All of those, they had a signature sound to them, man. That today you fuse that with a software-based instrument, you're creating something brand new that no one else got. So, yeah. Tim Talent is in the house. Had an off-topic question which I will revisit. I promise you that. If not, then you could just copy and paste it and put it back in, and I'll address it towards the end. I'm gonna stay on topic really quick. John Land says, I'm amazed that people still put out the M1 piano and things, and that's not the prettiest or accurate to piano, but has the unique quality that makes it useful. Yo, you know what? I did a session with Von Branch. Look him up. Very talented gospel keyboardist out of the Bronx, right? And that was the first time I ever met Ayanna George. Look Ayanna up, and we did this session. And to your point, he was using the M1 patch in the it was a Korg. What was that? It was the last Korg big unit that they had out. But he used the M1 piano on this ballad that he did with her. And combined her pretty voice with his talent and his ability to play. And it was like the most beautiful sound you ever heard. Two people create. So to your point, it's not the best sounding thing, but guess what? They made music out of it, and they made something beautiful out of it, So in the end, what are people hearing? Are they criticizing? Oh, well, that most definitely, that song was not made with it. Who cares? Ain't but 7 notes on the piano key, 12 tones chromatically. So whatever you do with them 12 tones, and on whatever instrument you use to express yourself, it's kind of like irrelevant, because in the end, people are going to remember the song. So good point, John, about that M1. The Triton, yeah, Mr. Pirate Band, yeah, you got it. That's what it was. It was the Korg Triton. Then he used the M1, like one of the M1 old school patches out of it. And the two of them just absolutely slayed this song. And Ayanna, you look her up, she's like one of the top session singers in New York, but she sings with just about everybody. But yeah, man, she came in and killed it. Just like killed it. One of the best session singers I've ever worked with in New York. And I mean, Von Branch is like just a killer producer altogether. And you look them up, man. But Ayanna is like something to listen to. Shazam, yo, where have you been, brother? Oh my God, man. Yes, I'm glad you're here, man. I'm glad you are here. But Alamine, yes, about the Jam and Lewis. And Tim, I haven't forgotten about your ISA question, but let's jump back on topic real quick about what you're likely to hear from your peers if you decide to go old school. Oh, the sound quality is poor. It's not, it doesn't have the features of, and blah, 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 and more blah. Because likely these people do not work or do not, are not contracted out. And, sometimes these contracts you look at, folks are specific. Some artists are very specific, and you got to be able to accommodate. They cutting that check. You got to be able to accommodate. That's why everybody was back in the day, about the late 90s, late 80s, about 88 to about, I'm going to go out here and say about 95. SSL was dominating, commanding $1 million for that J series console. You want it? Give me $1 million. And guess what? A lot of people was leasing them consoles at $7,000 leases per month for $1 million console. Because it's what people were looking for. You get one hit that was created and suddenly folks get gassed and thinking, yo, I need to make it on an SSL. Now, I'm not taking anything away from SSL. Their design, their consoles, the functionality of them are bar none. I don't particularly like it because of the sound is a little bit on the harsh side. For my ears, I prefer a Neve-based console, 80 series, because that's what I've heard most of my time coming up as a kid. But by and large, back in the late 80s, mid 90s, they were commanding millions of dollars for consoles, and some of these houses were absolutely going out to these big companies, Westlake Audio and a lot of the other ones, and leasing. You want the business. You want what another studio doesn't have. You better install or have an SSL room, because that's what the client is looking for. So what the client dictates the outcome of the product. Period. I mean, don't fool yourself. If the record company is calling for revisions, or if the producer of the film or director is calling for revisions with a particular request, you've got to accommodate. You've got to accommodate. I remember working on All Me, The Life and Times of Winfred Rembert, a documentary shot by Vivian Ducat. Beautiful woman, very nice people, Ducat Media. And yeah, man, the Post House that was mixing it, man, if I showed you the cue, the specificity of each and every detail, with the music, it was crazy. So, down to plugins, if you had certain plugins, if not disabled, and whatever, it gets down to who's signing the check. And in the end, you want to be paid. You got to obey that. Okay, if it can't be done, find a way to get done. Man. So those who want to just criticize individuals for going out and buying, a Roland Juno synth, and you're deciding that that's what you want to be your sound, and criticize you, he uses whatever. You got to ignore that stuff, man, because in the end, it's about you getting paid, as far as I'm concerned. So let's jump to Giovanni. Said, Warren, wouldn't you add the reliability and build quality of the older gear to your list of... Yes. Reasons to consider buying it. The reason it's old and being sold is because that's true. It still works. It's funny because, to your point, I remember when and Mr. Pirate Brain probably remembers as well, because we come from the same point in time, if you know what I mean. But anyway, you remember when the Akai samplers came out, the S900, okay? And everybody was using it, triggering flying in vocals and all that. And to your point, I remember when I went out. So I'm like in my mid-20s, early 30s at the time. I go out, right? Everybody's using the S900. I went out and I bought the new Roland S760. I got into a session at this studio downtown, Night Owl. I'll never forget. And I just bought the thing, and stupid me takes it to the session like, yo, why use that? Use this. I done dropped my couple of grand on it, and I couldn't even operate the thing good enough to do what I needed to do for the session. This producer was like, can we just use the S900, please? So, me with my tail stuck in between my legs, tucked it away and went and got the S900. If it's working, and if this is what these people are used to working with, they don't care if you got the latest and greatest gear. You take that, put that back, hook that S900 back up, because that's what I'm used to using. Guess what a brother went out and bought after that? Okay? So, you all know I always got a story for everything. But anyway, let's jump up really quick. So, again, what you're likely to hear, like I said, they're going to criticize the sound quality. They're going to say it doesn't have the features of whatever, you got this new. And like I said, everything else is just hot air as far as I'm concerned. So what should you do? In the end, if you're on a contract situation, you got to obey the budget. You got to obey the budget. If you're working with a particular person that is You know you have your set fee. And you know they always have these special requests. Find a way to fold that incidental fee into your fee. So that if anything weird comes up, like they want you to go get all red jelly beans and stick them in a bowl, you know it's going to take you how long to pull out all the other colors and stick all red jelly beans in the bowl. You factor that into the bottom line. I'm just using it as an example because sometimes folks have requests. I'm using that weird request as an example, like if they want serial number 001 vintage U87, and I can't perform unless I get this microphone. It's your job. You better go and find it. Okay? So, you know, but in the end, you got to obey the budget. You got to make sure that you're not stuck with your mouth sticking out because you're angry because you didn't charge enough money and they send you on a wild goose chase for whatever. You know, obey your budget. If you think that having and buying this piece is going to benefit your production bottom line, go buy it. Go buy it. If you think that Ensoniq sampler is going to enhance your production value, you know what I mean? Because that's what you're in. We are in a value-based business. You go buy it. You know, trust your ears and your gut. Trust your ears. You trust your ears. You know, just like the producer I was mentioning earlier who enjoyed using just that Roland hardware base with the floppy disk sampler. It was part of his workflow. It was what he was used to. Certain sound modules that he's used to that gave him the sound that he was looking for. Trust your ears and your gut. If it's working, don't mess with it. Don't be stupid like me. Go out and buy it. Oh, I have a S760. Check this out. The guy was like, oh, that's cute. Can you get it to work? And I couldn't. And was like, put that back. Go and use the S900. You know what I mean? Trust your ears. It may sound great, but if it's going to stand in the way of progress, it's useless. And it's going to bring me to my final point in a minute. Again, purchase tried and true pieces that will enhance your workflow. You know, like what's name said in the earlier, the reason why it's working, John, I think it was, is because it is old. You know, folks, their ears are familiar, you know, or maybe their workflow is familiar with that piece of equipment, you know. So why am I saying all this? During my upgrade, I experienced a few things. One was the whole issue with the subscription model with Pro Tools. I'm tired of it. Absolutely tired of it. Now, many of you went on my thing and I polled and asked what you were using as DAWs. And to my surprise, but not shock, Pro Tools was in the minority. So there's a handwriting on the wall. I said that a long time ago when I was even talking about Luna and UA, their new DAW. So there's somewhat of a handwriting on the wall because I think, you know, folks are kind of tired of having stuff standing in the way of progress. Now, what am I saying? Why am I saying that? I want to use Pro Tools for, you know, doing some testing because before I offer it to a client, I have to make sure that it works. And for some strange reason, the iLock dongle with the subscription on it was acting funny that day. Okay. Me, being old school and having a HD system where this never happened because I owned the software, okay? I'm saying, okay, well, maybe if I take the dongle out, put the dongle back in. Bam. Error again. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Maybe my credit card didn't go through. I checked the credit card information. I go on my account. Credit card information is accurate. Doom. This dance went on for like an hour and a half. So I'm Googling around. Turns out, if the iLock cloud thing shut down, it can shut down your licenses. I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Now, could you imagine this nonsense happening in the middle of me trying to work? Now y'all don't know, but I will. My wife will attest to this. If something's not working, when I'm on a job, I get kind of intense, and if something's not working, I am liable to take it, snatch it, and throw it somewhere, because once you get a flow, a creative flow happening, the last thing you need is, and I'm gonna get to it now. I'm share y'all another story where this happened. The last thing you need is your equipment causing you to slow down creatively. That's absolutely whack. Period. Give you an example. The last record I tried to do for my last, I wrote up all this music, hired the musicians, went to compose it, hired an engineer that came highly recommended, and etc. 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 So we go to lay the tracks down, and he goes to me after we do a couple of cuts. We go to listen back. He said, "Can I talk to you for a minute?" I'm like, "Yeah." Um, the DI wasn't working on the acoustic bass. I almost had a car in there. I was like, "Okay." And you're telling me this after we cut the tracks. Now I'm gonna go and look at the screen, and I'm gonna see a flat line because you didn't say, "Wait, hit the talk back, guys. Hang on a second. We have an issue with the DI on the bass." You couldn't think to say that to me, okay, while or before we were recording. So I'm like, "Did you troubleshoot?" He goes, gives me this cross look. I ain't cried to crack on the youngsters, but even youngsters, they get that wide-eyed look like, I'm in Papa mode at that point. I'm like, "Well, did you check this, check that, check this?" So he's like, "Can we go up and check?" So I go and I check. Bro didn't even have the thing. He had the switch hit to mic and not line. One switch. I'm like, "Did you check to make sure that the mic and lines?" I go upstairs. I look at it. I'm like, it was a matter of hitting one thing. The point that I'm making is this: when you want your equipment to work, it has to work. It has to work. The last thing you need to do is to have a signed contract with the check in your hand for the first third as a start, and you got a 2-week deadline to the work in progress report. The last thing you need is to have your stuff filing up. Now the whole iLock thing with Pro Tools is absolutely insane. So how am I remedying this? Warren is going back to using his HD8 system, and I am buying an older Lynx Aurora, or if I can find an Apogee Symphony with the HD card in it, and that will be my failsafe. Because you don't want to be standing by finagling with your equipment if something goes down. Now here it is. I got a brand new system installed, but if the iLock cloud thing jacks up for any reason at all, guess what, folks? We got to shut the session down because iLock is not working. I was like, that can't happen. So what my whole point about the thing, I was like kind of not shocked to the point like, "Oh wow, this is an eye-opener." Most people are jumping ship with Avid because Avid ain't doing nothing but gassing people right now. You just straight up gassing people, taking their money, $38 coming out of my account every month, and then I go to do something and it's all jacked up. I ain't got no time for that. I ain't got no time for that. Nor patience. And they are just lucky that I wasn't in the middle of having to turn something into somebody, because I would be highly annoyed. So if it's working and it's old, as my HD system never gave me this problem. Why? Because all of the software that I have, I own. I own. Period. I bought it with my money. If something fails, I know that I can go and reinstall the software from the CDs. Problem solved, crisis averted. I don't have to get on the phone with nobody in customer service. I don't have to worry about the iLock thing shutting down because now everything is locally based. It's not on the cloud. Ain't nobody got time for that. And I don't know who else can attest to having had that problem. But if you got somebody money, they ain't interested in hearing about your technical woes. They're not. And you come back at them that was one of the problems I had with ADAS. I'll never forget. I did a session with this one client. And my parting words to them, because they insisted on taking the tapes with them. Do not put these tapes near a refrigerator. Do not put these tapes near, remember back in the day, the television had the big backs. Don't put it on top of no TVs. Don't put it next to the radio. Do not put it next to the speaker. They will demagnetize or it will compromise the data on the tape. Do you understand me? They were like, yes, we do. I said, normally I ask people to leave the tapes here. I will archive them until the end of the project. But because you want to take them, I have to make sure that won't happen. No problem, sir. We will make sure that we keep these tapes safe. Thank you. See you next session. Next session comes. What do? Stick all 24 tracks of the things into the ADAT. Error messages. I'm like, wait. I'm getting an error message. So, back in the day, error message had the codes in the back of the manual. You look in the manual, it's like, can't read the data. So I said, okay, let me just take it. I had the head cleaning thing. You stick the tapes and you clean the heads of the ADAT machines. Reinsert the tape. Sync up for a minute. Then the data. You get the data errors. So they looking at me like, what happened? I'm like, what happened? I'm like, I gave you the tapes. I was like, by chance, did you happen to put these tapes near anything that might have been magnetic? What are you talking about? So now I'm like, oh, man. I'm like, the machine is not reading your data. It can't read the. So what does that mean? That means, I'm like, we ain't got no backups. I told y'all to leave the tapes here. I was going to keep them safe. It's your fault. No, it ain't my fault. I told y'all to leave the tapes here. So we go back and forth. So quite naturally, I'm in business. I got to take the high road. What did I wind up doing? Going in my pocket. Angrily, mind you. Wrote them a check for all the time they spent that they now losing. Hand them the check. Gave them their tapes. Had them sign the document that we were square. And did I walk away evil? Absolutely. Because things happen with older tech. But at the same time, if I'm telling you that, you got to protect something for a particular reason, it's up to you to make sure you do that. You know what I mean? So you will have sometimes horror stories when it comes to older technology. But at the same time, if you're in business, the last thing you need is for your stuff to go down, as will the iCloud thing with Avid, as well. And another thing, here's another story for y'all. Even about with my Sibelius, I can't use my Sibelius anymore unless I'm using it on my old MacBook. Why? Because now Sibelius with Avid has moved to a cloud subscription, and my Sibelius 7 is no longer considered valid. I paid about $500 for that software. So if I want to use it, I have to now go back to my MacBook White, the MacBook White that I had it on, and write scores. Now imagine trying to write scores on a little screen that's 13 inches. Avid's time in terms of being the bellwether, in terms of DAWs and just overall ability to create music, those days are numbered. So, hey man, I'm off my soapbox about the stories with some of these things, but let that be a lesson, to anyone that is thinking about buying something older. Now, to the whole point about workflow and about the criticisms that you will receive. How am I working now in the future? Now and in the future, because like I said, arranging and composition is my main line of business with private clientele that I have. Unfortunately, at first chance I get, I will probably go back to using not Sibelius. No, not no. The other one. I won't be using Sibelius, or I'll be using it on my MacBook, one or the other. I will be on standby, and I got it right here on my left hand. My HD system is on standby. I will be using it with, I'm looking for an Apogee Symphony as well as a Lynx Aurora, the 16 with the LT HD card in it. Because I can't. I just can't. I use Pro Tools. Pro Tools has not changed. The standard in the audio industry is still 24/192. If a client asks for it, they're going to ask for those files. So I have to make sure that I'm able to turn in the work, because nothing is worse than not being able to turn in the work when, you're on contract, or you have a requirement coming from the producer or whomever, and you have to turn it in. They're not interested in any story that you could give them as to the reason why, So with that in mind, let's jump into some comments. Stefano, okay. Most Styles is in the hizzy too. Subtonic 24. I'm using Logic as my backup door now. That happened to me during a session, and client got worried, and he noticed my workflow was much slower. Yo, you was probably trying to play it off, right? He's trying to probably play it off. Yo, I gotta go to the bathroom. I'll be right back, all right? Go upstairs. Like, man, you've been in the bathroom a long time. You come downstairs, there's big lemonade. You want some lemonade? Yeah, I was upstairs making lemonade. You come with all sorts of stories, man. All sorts. Y'all want some sandwiches with that? I'll be right back. Meanwhile, the stuff is on Blink. It's on Blink. And you know what else has been happening with this stupid people at Spectrum? If the internet goes down, you got problems. You got problems. You got problems. I'm serious. Every major studio has a backup plan of some sort. They know that time is money. They know time is money. And to your point about, you got to have Logic as your backup door because the client was worried. The client's probably looking at you like, yo, you better get this fixed. And they don't care about it. And then some studios will charge you, downtime. Like if it's a Hit Factory or who used to do that? Like if you have a minute of downtime or whatever, they would be like, even if you're sitting there, the clock is still ticking. But as an independent operator, you can't go around, you got a client booked from 4 to 9, and suddenly at hour number 2 into the session, your thing go on the Blink for a half an hour, your internet, and then you talking about 9 o'clock you finish. They'll be like, we lost a half an hour with you. We got to run to 9:30. Or I got to go get my kids from Pookie and that. They're not interested. Your internet went down for a half an hour. You got to give them that credit back. Man, I seen it all, B. I'm seeing it all. I'm telling you, and when you are, like I said, if I'm in the middle of a big project or a project period, man, and stuff start acting up, which was, and I'm still getting cranboard and hate mail, by the way. Still, to this very day. I get people who have, constructive criticism and still get hate mail. And it's not even about, the quality of the equipment. It's probably great. But what if, and if you've been doing this for any duration of time, you know that what if scenarios sometimes pan out. And if it don't pan out in your favor, you about to give that money back. I'm telling you, you giving that money back. I had another studio, same time. It was this Night Owl. I shouldn't even call it the studio name. But anyway, I was an assistant there. So, y'all know, I don't know how many of y'all ever cut tape on the Atari. If you ever seen the old Atari, like the MTR-12, tape machine, the 2-track, and you had to flatten. If it was a half-inch or quarter-inch, anyway. I was a night guy, right? So I showed up for the shift, and I look over at the machine, and the flanges for the tape machine is bent. I'm like, yo, what happened? He was like, last night, and this is the beginning of hip hop. He's like, last night, one of the clients was very upset. This white guy, white brothers didn't know how to mix hip hop. I love you, but white guys could not mix hip hop back in the day. He was very upset that the track sounded kind of thin, and he wanted it remixed, and I told him I had to leave. The dude tore. I mean, he like hulked the flanges off the 2-track. I was like, what? He like just started smashing stuff up in the control room. So I was like, whoa. So after that, my man was like checked out. The white brother, I forget his name. But he was like I can't, I have the black guy doing the sessions at night. I can't be done. It's like way above my pay grade. But yeah, man, I'm telling you, brother got stories. So you gotta have 2 of everything, man. But I thought that was worth sharing. Anyway, okay, let's jump back. Man, I had to convince my client that the audio quality and logic isn't worth it. There's that. Subtronic, dropping the gems. There's that. I ain't got no time for that. Some people think that the quality of the sound comes from the software. Doesn't. Sorry. Which is why I've been using HD8 for the last, I ain't gonna lie, 2000 and I think my HD system I purchased in 2005, and I've been on 8 since God only knows when. I was using 7 up until that time, and I was on 7 for a long time. Then I switched over to 8 just to be somewhat relevant because of the few features that they had. But if it's a conversion in the end. So yeah, man. Miguel, oh, what's up, man? You've been commenting on quite a few things, man. I'm glad you're here, brother. Is Cranborn really on that? I'm looking at their product, but I don't want to believe this. Hey, man, Miguel, I don't know, bro. I'm gonna tell you like this, man. I'm gonna be honest with you. You buy it from Sweetwater. You don't like it. If you think it's not working for you, then you send it back. It's that simple. I'm less hung up. You hear me talking about HD8. I'm less hung up on sound quality. No, on features, on a features list as opposed to the quality. In the end, the person or your vision for what it is that you're trying to accomplish creatively, it comes down to 12 tones in music. That's all it gets down to. So you can make a great song on a little, what the M-Audio thing. It ain't getting down to that. It's down to not the technical ability, but your ability to create great music, period. Or to deliver to a client exactly what they're looking for. If Cranborn is going to stand in the way of you facilitating the ability to give someone exactly what they're paying you for, then you need to make that call like, yo, this is not working for me. I need to find another way to do this thing. So, okay, let's jump forward. I will buy it from Sweetwater and then make the call after that. So, George Thompson on Jimmy Douglas's Pro 2 sounds more open than other doors. I will yield the floor to Jimmy Douglas's opinion any day of the week. I ain't gonna argue with him. He got more gold records than I ain't even got one. So, the man's been doing it for a long time. He's one of the few brothers, other than maybe Barney Perkins, that I looked up to as a kid. So yeah, if he says it sounds more open, then maybe to his hearing. He's a mix engineer primarily, and back in the day, I knew him as a kid growing up as a tracking engineer, because he worked at Atlantic. I had a friend of mine, Rodney Mitchell, who played with the group T.S. Monk, and I think Jimmy Douglas at the time was a staff engineer at Atlantic, back when the group T.S. Monk, who was Thelonious Monk Jr., it was his group. They were a pop group at the time. And Jimmy Douglas was the staff guy that recorded all of those tracks. So I know him from that point in time. So if he says it sounds more open to his hearing, then, that's his opinion. And if that's what he's experiencing, and, he's doing stuff, I think, with Justin Timberlake, or he's mixed quite a few people as of late in terms of pop. Okay. That's all I'm going to say to that. But I won't argue with him, But if, it gets down to what do you say? What's your opinion on the usage factor of the equipment? Like, I just went out and bought recently Logic 9. That's old, but it has a feature set that I want to begin to use on my laptop, which is old. Okay, so it's about the ability to work in the end. That's what it gets down to for me. Oh, Giovanni, seriously, read the email. Oh, Giovanni. Nah, listen, I'm not trying to crack on Cranborn, man. But they were quite. I'll put it to you this way. I'm put Cranborn and then we're gonna move on off the topic because I need to bring this thing to a close because I've been blabbing for a little bit. They designed a product. I asked them a group of questions that I feel are pertinent to any professional who's going to use the equipment. I asked them to come on to explain it to, it's like they're selling it to the general public. Sell your wares. And the what if scenario that I had was based on experience. The experience I had was this, and I'm going to move off the topic. Cranborn is a British company. I own a very expensive pair of Dynaudios. They have died. They are sitting on the shelf right now in the boxes because it costs a fortune to repair them. I have called all over the world to get these things repaired. I don't have time for that. That was one experience. Another experience I had was when I owned a British board by Allen and Heath when they were made in the UK. This was at the beginning of the Project Studio Revolution, and they were being heralded as the company that was going to give modularity to project studios. Now, I knew at the time I was only 8-track, and I wanted to grow to a 24-track, which was going to be popular at the time, ADAT system. I was given assurances at the AES that fully expandable. All you have to do is buy the expansion pack. That was a lie. I went to upgrade the console. I could not find the expansion pack anywhere in the world. Meanwhile, I had thousands of dollars in ADAT on order, and I needed a console. So imagine having a 16-channel console, 24 channels, and about $7,000 worth of ADATs on order with no console to connect it to. And then you're calling the UK, they never pick up the phone, or you're calling at the wrong times, or they can't tell you where you can get it in America. You're calling all the top pro audio shops, they don't know how to get. Who has time for that? Who has time for that? So my point to the people at Cranborn was, what if something goes on the blink in the middle of client money? You better have 2 of these things so you can continue to work, or you're giving that money back. I just asked them to come on and explain a few things about their technical support and their outreach. They got highly perturbed, and I have to this day am still getting hate mail. Folks don't know that's whack. I don't pay attention to that, but it speaks to the company. In the end of the day, the stuff got to work, and if it don't work, it's just a paperweight at that point, so y'all go read the emails. But yeah, man, ain't nobody got time for that. I ain't got time for that. Okay, so let's jump forward. So what should you do Like I said, obey your budget, man. Never mind what people think about the equipment that you're eyeballing and you're scared to buy because you're afraid of the criticism that might follow. Never mind that. If it's going to enhance what you're doing, your workflow, or give you a sound that you're looking for, trust your ears and gut. Buy it. Obey your budget. If you're on a job and you know you're gonna want to have to create, or you're going to have to create, or if you're sound designing and you need the sound of a particular module and you have to go out and buy it, you might have to buy it. You might have to dig a little deep into the budget for that purpose. You do it and purchase tried and true pieces that will enhance your workflow. Period. If a Korg M1 is going to give you the sound that you need for that ballad that you're composing, buy the Korg M1. Who cares about what people think? You can't. You can't. If you're working pro, you cannot. You can't. I mean, there are certain exceptions to the rule. One of them, once upon a time, and I do say once upon a time, was you needed to have, no, not going to say once upon a time. It still is the case. The bellwether is Avid for pro audio. Anywhere in the world, people are going to ask you for a Pro Tools session. So you still have to have, if you're working pro, you need both. But, you know, it's nothing wrong with composing in Logic. That's why I bought Logic 9. You know, I don't want to have to fire up a whole studio just to compose. And I yo man, my business is on life support. I ain't gonna lie to you. This year has been trying. In the beginning, I was skinning and grinning and laughing like most people. Yo, man, I gotta grab the defibrillator off the wall, and every now and then I'm hitting my books because it's like, brother, need to work. So I gotta find a new way to do this thing. You know what I mean? Using minimal amount of resource. Because to fire up all this electricity to compose or to write charts for someone or to arrange, it's not economically feasible. So with that in mind, 2 long years, well, a year and a half. Yeah, man, with this COVID crap, man. I was just talking to one of my boys, man, from Baltimore. He's into real estate. Oh, man, he's hurting. Brother is liquidating stuff and still not able to balance his books good. So if this is any indication, man, you know, we've all got to start thinking outside the box. So if that means you got to use old tech, use old tech. Use old tech, you know. You know, if you got to find a workaround to just get along without having to worry about iCloud and iLock, their system going, the cloud thing going down, if that's what's going to help you, you do it. You go back and use older technology. You know, if you're just starting out, do what you have to do to get the job done, to get the music written. Cause ain't nobody paying you for nothing else other than that. You know what I mean? They hiring you to write charts. You writing charts. You do not need to fire up a giant facility just to score 2 pages of music. That's a waste of money. So to my point, you know, it's becoming like I'm paying more in resources to keep the studio afloat than money that's coming in. And as soon as COVID hit, in one day, it was like 3 calls back to back to back, jobs that I had lined up, big ones. And they were like, I'm sorry, we're shutting down. I'm sorry, we're shutting down. Oh, we're going to have to revisit the contract. It's like, oh God, 1, 2, 3. And it happened again recently in like October. One company that had this gala, they do a yearly gala, big magazine here in New York. The agency called me and asked me if I could do a virtual, concert with the artist and stream it. I'm like, yes, I can, not a problem. Had the contract money lined up literally 1 week before the gig was about to kick off. They pulled the plug on it. Literally. So, I mean, you can only, suffer those hardships as a business person, but so many times before you got to really start thinking outside the box. Like, okay, I need to have a exit strategy or a plan B, or you're going to find yourself upside down. So if the plan B is using older tech to give you something new that's going to allow you to express yourself and what you're trying to get accomplished in a different way, this too shall pass. COVID will pass. And guess who will be the guy? You will be. Because the money's going to come back. The people are going to come back. The confidence is going to come back. And you got to be on the right side of the equation, having had an opportunity to be on a level playing field. Because I don't care how many of people posting on Instagram, posting on Facebook, that they're doing great and their studios are clocking crazy dollars because I'm mixing and mastering. That is a lie. That's a lie. It's not true. It's not true. It's not true. It's not true. Don't believe it. The money is not there, y'all. The money is not there. Period. So unless the only guys I know that are making money right now, people that I know that are scoring for games, big, medium, and small gaming companies, they're making money. And most of these post-production houses, because guess what? Film is the wave of the future. So those guys are making money because there's a audio and visual aspect to their line of work. But everybody that you see, oh, I'm mixing and mastering, and I got this mastering session. That's all you're doing. You are broke. You need to stop playing yourself because that's not true. You're not making that kind of money. You're not making that kind of money because you in business against Pookie and them, and everybody with a laptop is now a mixing and mastering engineer. So unless you're monetizing your business some kind of way, thank God I got some income coming in from YouTube. You got to find a way to monetize your business. You got to have more than one iron in the fire. And you better have some rainy day money or some rainy day equipment that's going to fall on the sword in case the light bill come due. You know, so don't believe all that hype, man, that you see with folk on Instagram. Y'all better step up. You notice, for those of you who have Facebooked me and joined, you notice I'm very rarely on Facebook. Because I'm not, unless I'm trying to share stuff about what I'm doing here, etc. Because I'm not trying to gas nobody into believing that, yo, my life is great. I'm just like But for those who are trying to break in, it is hard. You ain't gonna make it just mixing and mastering. So y'all need to start picking up a camera. You better go on my man YCL Imaging. After you get off this, go look at him. Y'all better start learning how to shoot music videos. You better go and learn how to shoot real estate photography and all that other stuff and put your own little music behind it. I'm telling you, you got to think outside the box or you ain't going to make it. So never mind what people are saying about the equipment and the technology being old and it's for you and it's for your ability to create something new. Because once this thing passes, if you happen to score a cue for a sound library or a music library company, and they want to know, how did you get that bass sound? And you know you dug up one of your old Roland Juno synthesizers and you married it with like about 9 software-based synths. That's your sound. You don't have to tell them the trade secret. You can say, you can hire me again if you want that sound. You have something to sell that Pookie and them ain't got. Pookie and them don't know how you got it. They don't know how you got that sound. So now what does that make you? Makes you the guy. Who are they going to call to do that cue again? They're going to call you. Because I went to Pookie last week trying to save $1 and he couldn't recreate what you could do. I'm telling you, everybody start thinking like that, man. You know, everybody want to talk about, oh yeah, look at me on Instagram. I bought this, I bought that. Meanwhile, you know you use that COVID money or that the government gave you. You knew you should have been paying your light bill and know what you went and gave the money to Sweetwater, being a knucklehead, because you wanted whatever was new. And you know you ain't got no money coming in. Folks be gassing themselves, yo. Just cut it out, all right? I was born that night, not last night. I know the real deal. You know, so you got to be smart. Think outside of the box. What makes Quincy Jones Quincy Jones? He can do it all because he understands music on another level. You understand? What makes Teddy Riley Teddy Riley? he has a way of doing things, and always to this very day, no one can do New Jack like Teddy Riley can. Period. I know New Jack is not what's in today, you know, but if you hire this guy, you're gonna get that sound. When people hiring you, they're gonna get that sound. Aha. So Subtronic, I'm trying to pay off my student loan debt this year before I start looking at more studio gear. Yeah, man. I mean, Subtronic, I don't know what it is that you're into, but like I've been telling the youngsters, y'all better learn to use a camera. Learn to use a camera. You can make a couple of $500-$400 shooting. Now I don't advocate, because some of this hip hop that they be doing is like, y'all need to, take the edge off. It's like, drinking Scotch whiskey straight, with no chaser. Some of that stuff is real strong like that. Oh, what's that song Cardi B put out? It's a nasty song. Over the something. See, I just told you I don't be perusing and stuff, but I did know it created that much of a buzz. But anyway, come on, some of this stuff is like this straightaway runch, but it's selling. Somebody mixed it and somebody shot the video. You don't have to shoot videos on that level, but if you can use a camera to the point where you can sell the service to a client, you not only got the mixing and mastering, you are now the video director. Learn to use a video editor. You got to put more, what they say, bullets in the chamber. Ain't nobody want no 6-shooter. Yeah, WAP. Yo, that song was out there. That was out of control. But guess what? She counting that money. She's counting that money. So, yeah, you can't be a one-trick pony. I mean, and I could tell you, man, every time that I've, gone the opposite direction of everybody, that's when I've made my money, Yeah. Yeah, man. So, Ninja, please don't mention it. No, yeah. Yeah, man. That was wild. But anyway, this was good. I'm back in the saddle. Yeah, with me, as a matter of fact, ironically, a lot of people that I wrote music with in the past have been like, there's been a wave of folk checking out as of late. And they were like, yo, we need to be writing some more music. So a lot of folks that I have either composed with, or, a lot of session singers that have always, I always wanted to do this project. And, these times have shown me that I need to get on it, because tomorrow ain't promised. To that point, I've had to set up my workflow now, going back to just straight away production and writing and composing. And that's literally for everything. Literally for everything. If, I'm going to be connecting with some of my classical folk, that, might need my services in terms of arranging, for quartet, string quartet, that is, or for chamber ensemble. Because, brother, it's nice to be able to pick and choose your work, but I'm a beggar and I can't be beggar says it can't be choosy. Brother can't be choosy nowadays, man. I gotta keep these lights on, B. I ain't trying to be gassing myself, you know what I'm saying? So, God gave me a certain skill set that, to whom much is given, much is required. I got to get to work, and that's what I'm going to be doing. So I have to set up, whereas I had a plan 2 years ago to do something else differently, now I have to go back to the way I've been used to working. So that's what I'll be doing. A lot more composing, a lot more arranging, a lot more reaching out to folks that, one person I had did a record with, like, about, give you an example, about 8 years ago, out of the blue, was like, hey, we need to get back together. I know that, you had mentioned that I need to do a remix on this particular song, and I know you demoed the remix, and we wrote the music and everything, did the demo for the remix and everything, and it was like, I think I need to do that now. So it's a lot of people, if you've written music and you had a desire to release it, you got to do it. You got to do it. Because tomorrow ain't promised to nobody. So get to work, y'all. And don't worry about what nobody else is saying. Now, I have to go back to, let's see. who was it that asked me about the John Lance? No, not John Lance. I'm gonna find it in a minute. And 1 second. It was about the focus right. You know, when you get a whole lot of somebody said something about cakewalk. I had a friend of mine. That used to love cakewalk, and it seems like such. Well, I'm kind of being snobby right now. At the time, it seemed like such a a toy, you know. But he loved it, man. He mastered it, man. Cakewalk. But dag man, it'll come back to me. Trusty Studio, what's up, man? Yeah, I'm going through the comments right now. I was busy blabbing, you know, and you start running your mouth. You don't take your eye off the ball for a minute. But Giovanni was about the Fredenstein lunchboxes. Yo, Fredenstein, people need to stop sleeping on that company. I'm gonna put you this way: my German brothers, my German brothers, and the Brits. Some companies that be flying under the radar make really good boutique stuff, man. Really good boutique stuff. So yeah, man. But the Fredenstein, I own the artistic mic pre, and I would love to put that up. You know, you just gave me an idea. Maybe I'll put that up against a 512C, an actual API, because it's modeled after that, and it's really a nice clean pre. Really a clean pre. But okay, let me just jump forward. The question came to me about the Focusrite ISA 1, and I think there's a harshness in the mid-range. There's a certain characteristic that you get from a Focusrite ISA 1, for those of you who are interested in it. And the characteristic that you are likely to experience with it is a cleanliness that lends itself quite well to pop music or acoustic music, if you will. You know, if you're not doing that type or of music instrumentally, then you might want something different in terms of if you're looking for color. That's one point. The other point I want to make about it is that it lends itself very well to acoustic instruments. And I do mean acoustic, like acoustic bass. I've recorded acoustic bass and loved it. Because if you compare that cleanliness with like a LA2A with the tubes, or the characteristics of a FET compressor, then you're likely going to have a nice tone that comes out of the instrument, you know. So, yeah, you know, it's not for everyone. And it's certainly not for every genre of music. You know, I'm finding that it lends itself quite well to acoustics, or if it's a person that has a very soprano-like voice that's very clear like a bell, almost like a Barbra Streisand, you know, type singer, then you'll love it on that type of vocal. But if the person has a timbre like a Beyonce, nah, that's not the pre to use. Have I demoed the Al Schmidt plugin from Leapwig Audio? It sounds really good. I haven't. I've heard good things about it. And I'm going to put it to you this way. I know that Al Schmidt is not hurting for money. Okay, because he, to this very day, is an in-demand engineer. 1. 2, he would not put his name on anything that he doesn't personally believe in. You know, just to get the cash. You know what I mean? This man's spending money from probably 60 something from records that he did back then that he's getting points on because it's being played on radio to this very day. So he wouldn't put his name on anything I think that's substandard. So I am definitely interested in hearing it altogether. Yeah. What it do? Albuquerque, Unique the Poet, Albuquerque NM. What's up, man? I heard y'all had some pretty bad weather, you know, well, in that neck of the woods. I don't know if you got hit with the polar dip. But yeah, man, in Texas, they got walloped. kind of bad. But with that in mind, this has been good. I am back. Oh, Lou Skeevy said I ordered the BAE Dual 1073. Buy cheap, you buy. My man said you buy. You know it, B. You buy it cheap, you're gonna buy it 2 times, but you're gonna love that BAE though. That's another company that I'm finding they have a certain, even though they do 1073 inspired units, it doesn't sound like the AMS Neve, but they do have a tone that guitar players I'm finding absolutely love, and bass players too. So, okay, I'll take a couple more questions. ISO 1 paired with the SM7B. Subtonic 24. I would not pair that with the SM7B. The only reason is that the SM7 needs a ton, like I think 65, nearly 65 dB of clean gain. I'm not saying that's dirty, but I think you might find that sound a little sterile. So if you're using it for pop, hip hop, Latin trap, and acoustic, you might want to try something in Neve-ish, just so that you have that balance of the Carnhill and the the requirement that dB wise that might is asking for, and you might like that combo quicker than the Lundhall. Lundhall is a very that 1530 11 538 transformer is very clean, almost to a fault. But if you're doing acoustic music, it's great, but if you're doing something that needs character, so you might want something Neve based, but let's jump up. Ninja 6485. Sorry, okay. Okay, Giovanni, question about the 500 series. Have I heard of Kush Audio? Yeah, that's another company that's killing it right now. You know what? I mean, if I could, I would probably buy and sample all this stuff, just because. But call me a creature of habit, but I just have a particular thing that I like. But I have heard about them, and I do know that, yeah, they are making waves. They're like Fredenstein. And it's the fun thing. People are just like, they don't realize that, to make this equipment is not very expensive, but some newer companies like Lewitt and I think Austrian Audio and all these new mic companies and boutique preamp companies, they realize that if I can source it and reverse engineer what has been great for so long, I can put my own spin on, an API 512C. So, to your point, I've heard a lot of good things about Kush Audio. Yeah, I would look into it. The EQs, definitely. And if you, get your hands on one and you heard it, yeah, definitely reach out to a brother. Let me know what your experience was with that. Let's jump forward. Neve like Pre's SM7B. Yes. BAE's the truth paired with a Tube Tech. Yeah, man. That Tube Tech CLB. Oh, yeah. I've heard good things about that too. Yeah, that's a fat sound chain. If you're doing like vocals, yes, sir. Definitely. With that Tube Tech compressor, Jesus. Yes, sir. Yeah, it's if Subtonic, if you're saying you need something with clean gain, you definitely want to reach for a Neve based preamp. And in my recent shootout that I did against the Focusrite Red, ISA, Neve 1073, and the Warm, I'm finding that the headroom that you have in the Neve, AMS Neve, is insane. At first I thought it was a fluke, but then after running it through, and playing with it and, running some tracks through it, and I'm talking about playing through it, it's like the amount of gain you have to give, even if I'm using it with a direct box, is so minimal. It's like just to get enough signals to the converters, it's minimal, and you have all that at the top. So definitely something to look at. Think about that. And again, if you buy from someone like Sweetwater, you can return it if you don't like it. And if you have enough money, you could buy both and send back what you don't. I do that all the time. If I happen to have a little bit of cash laying out and I know I want to try both out, then I, do it that way. Lusky V asks the question, what do I think of Reverb? Not trying to plug them, but bought on my hand. I buy lots of stuff on Reverb. A lot of stuff on there, and they're very good with that. I have a BAT. It's the closest to a Neve. Okay. I haven't side by sided them, but I do know that they, in terms of the design sense, they are the closest that I've seen that design their equipment as close to the way the old Neves were manufactured. So to your point, the Neve was my number one in that shootout. Oh yeah, man. And okay, got it. Okay, time to invest in some 500 series if you can. It's flexible. I would just say make sure you buy a quality chassis. I would buy the API chassis over probably all of them. I'm realizing that the amount of power available that are available on the rails, is indispensable. You have to have that available, juice coming in order to be able to like if you're playing bass through a Neve, it's going to draw a lot of current, to drive those big, bass waves, if you will, in terms of voltage. I'm saying now. So the requirements that you have to have it on tap, and some of the units out here might not give you exactly what you're looking for in terms of just straight away juice, And I'm to that point. I was looking at the API 1608 console, and I saw the amount of available voltage, and I was like stunned on the power rails where you can stick in the 500 series units. In order to have the console not suddenly sound thin at the mix bus, you need that available horsepower in terms of juice. And some of these power supplies, if you've ever been in a studio where they had a mixing console, like I'll give you an example. My last two consoles, the Tascam power supply was a rack mount unit that was 19 inches in rack, 3 rack units high, and it was about maybe 14 inches deep. Just to tell you how much power some of these consoles need. So the API chassis, is the internal power supply on the 6-slot unit is beefy, and the unit on the 424 is like about that big as well. So you get a lot of available power. So if you're investing in 500 series, get a good chassis first. Do your research, and like I said, you'll want to make good investments in that area, because like my man was saying earlier, if you buy it cheap, you're gonna buy it again, brother. You're gonna buy it 2 times, especially if you're trying to turn some cash. You're trying to turn that cash, you ain't got no time to be having equipment that's going on a blink. So it's best to buy for critical. If you're trying to set up a critical sound chain, like us men says, the Tube Tech, the BAE, and a U87, you're gonna drop some dollars. But you're going to get that sound. You're going to get that sound. Your ears are going to tell you, like, that's what I've been chasing for so long. It's been a phantom, but that's how they got it. And nowadays, man, with all these companies coming up with all this reverse engineering, the whole Neve and API process, it's a good time to be alive in audio, But with that in mind, I gotta wrap it up. It's good connecting with you all again. I really appreciate you all for being here. This has been good. If you have any further questions you might want to ask me, reach out to me on the About tab on the channel. I appreciate you all being here. Do know that. Do know that. Do know that if you guys didn't show up, I would not be sitting here talking to nobody. So without you being here, there is no me. And I appreciate your time. I appreciate you taking out the time. You couldn't have done anything in the world with your time, but you chose to sit here and listen to me blab and tell stories, etc., etc., and I appreciate you for that. So, with that in mind, look forward. Chameleon Labs, John, yes, I'm looking out the corner of my eye. Look for a review this weekend on the TC Electronic Reverb. You're going to be quite surprised. I will say this though, because someone has sent me a message earlier. I was looking to use outboard reverb again. I own every reverb plugin on my HD system. Reverb One, Revive. I have the Deverb, as well as the Trillium Space, and all of them. I have all the reverb plugins. I was going to buy a Bricasti until I saw the price. I heard about Bricasti. Buy a Bricasti. Oh my God. And I was like, $4,000, can't afford it. So I went out and was sampling through YouTube as well as other individuals. And I stumbled. I was like, oh, an EMT clone. Now, for you youngsters that don't know, an EMT plate was the bomb diggity back in the days. You want to know what the plate reverb sounds like? Listen to songs, I forgot, by either the Everly Brothers. Okay, you want to know that old school Nat King Cole, old Frank Sinatra. If it wasn't a chamber reverb, it was a plate. And there's something about a plate on a vocal, you know, that even in some respects, until the lexicons came along, you know, it was almost like you can't get that same type of sound. It has a particular sound. Anyway, here along comes the TC Electronic Unit modeling the 250, the EMT 250. So I'm gonna tell you, this thing, even though it's software based, yo, this thing is killing. I was stunned to hear it. And see, I'm a type of person that when I on all of my reverb units, even when I own the Alesis units, I like to tweak, you know, the pre-delay. If you know anything about the habit of reverb or sound in a space, you have pre-delay, the onset of, you know, the pre-delay before the reverb kicks in, you know, and the after delay, and you can set those parameters up in greater detail, you know, and I'm tactile in that manner. I would like to tweak it. Now, with this particular unit, I'm giving you all a preview. You get a battery of presets, which are great sounding, but imagine the tweakability, you know, factor that comes along with that. That's all I'm going to say about that. I will let you hear the sound samples. Your ears will be the judge. Okay? Keep that in mind. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for stopping in. Thanks for being here. If you haven't done so already, subscribe. I'm looking for y'all. All right? And again, don't forget to say hello to your families for me. I appreciate you all being here. Thanks for watching.